Civ 3, which is awesome. So he's one of those staples. The Incas were introduced in Civ 2. So again, like keeping it old school here.
yeah, he's one of the favorites, and I think for good reason. He was one of the people that, you know, before his time, the Inca were kind of more of a city-state around Cusco, and he was the one that sort of like united all these different groups and kind of grew it into an empire. So, you know, a lot is credited to him, you know, like with the road system and a lot of the kind of greater feats that they came to accomplish.
Right. So when you're playing as Pachacuti, do you tend to go for that domination and making the large empire?
I actually tend to play him a little bit more peaceful.
Oh,
I like
okay.
to have, normally I don't re-roll maps. I think that's I personally like to play the challenge that I'm dealt, but on the Inca sometimes I really want to start next to a really sweet mountain range to make use of those Capacñans. So sometimes I'll look for a map where it's like, ooh, this is a really juicy good one. So I'll settle here and then keep going. And I think this save is a pretty good example of that. We got some like 4 tiles of mountains right next to our hill there.
Yeah,
and
that's a great start.
Yeah, the way the combination of the Civ ability and the terrace farm, their other unique improvement works is that, you know, terrace farms get bonus food for adjacent mountains, and mountains will get food from adjacent terrace farms. So they're sort of like become a food powerhouse.
Yeah.
So Carl's out exploring to see kind of what else we got. To the north here, it looks like some desert.
I think he's building a scout there, but I know that he wants to get his terrace farms up and running pretty early in the game. Those unlock right away for Inca, correct?
Almost right away.
Almost right away.
Or
Okay.
the terrace farms do. The Capacñan, you have to wait until foreign trade, but both of them are very...
Yeah, real quick. They're also fun to play, you know, when you were talking about playing aggressively. I had a game where I had kind of turtled up at the beginning of the game and was kind of minding my own business. And then there was some, you know, another Civ that was creeping up on me on the other side of the mountains. So then I just built some roads and then just pushed through and kind of...
Surprise.
So it's always good for that as well, especially since you can do that when nobody else can. I mean...
Can other Civs use your roads, though? Your Capacñan?
No, they can, but you need to use them first.
Yeah, so they can be a liability.
Yeah.
If they're like interior to your empire and you have closed borders and all that, like it's going to be fine unless you're at war.
Right.
But yeah, if you're just placing, you can build mountain tunnels and Capacñan outside your own territory.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we have Montezuma nearby. That might be a problem. But yeah, so you can build them outside your own territory if you're like, oh, like, here's a mountain range that's near my cities, but it's not in my cities yet. Let me build one, you know, an entrance here and an exit over here. You can still use that, but so can other people. So you got to be kind of careful. And, you know, if someone else invades the Incan Empire, it'll be a nice benefit for them.
Yeah.
It's similar to roads in general in the game, right? You know, you build roads, you can move your stuff
just like
quicker,
roads.
but if you
Just
have an
like
invader,
canals.
they can work against you, so...
So here we have one of our natural wonders, Ikkill, and it is a sort of like really deep well.
Yeah.
I forget. It's very close, I think, to
Chichen Itza?
yeah.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
name was
it Chichen Itza? Yes.
I was
I think
blanking
it
on
is,
the
yeah.
name. Yeah. But yeah, so one of the nice things about that natural wonder, especially since it's so close, we can build wonders and districts next to it, and we'll get 50% more production. So it might be a good spot for a second city, especially since it's pretty close to the mountain range there.
Yeah, that's a really neat-looking natural wonder. So Carl was actually teaching us, hopefully, the correct pronunciation of what this geographic feature is.
Oh, right.
The cenote.
Right.
Is that right, Carl?
He's nodding.
We're getting
okay,
a thumbs up.
And it's this just very deep vertical pit in the ground with water. And if you zoom in, you can see like the artists have added like the dangling vines and all of that, and it's really gorgeous. Except the water is so dark that it scares me, and it's horrifying because I have this huge fear of dark water when you can't see what's in it.
I have the same
where
thing.
Cthulhu comes out.
What is it called? There's a word for that. It's like thalassophobia.
It is in
I cannot
the
pronounce it right.
Civilopedia, which we won't open.
Okay.
Because I wrote that Civilopedia entry,
Gotcha.
and I talked about it because I was looking up pictures and
I'm the
just
same
freaking
way.
out.
Dark, murky water creeps me out.
Yeah. All right, so we're still exploring over here. It looks like he's got a builder coming up in a little bit, and so hopefully we can get those terrace farms online and then move into getting some of these Incan roads up and running. So do you want to talk a little bit about the Mita the unique Civ ability?
Sure, yeah. So the Incan abilities have a lot of synergy between them, and they're mostly about mountains. So the Mita ability, historically, the Mita was sort of this like kind of drafting that they did in the Incan Empire. So they would draft not just troops, but also like labor to help, like, with farming, and I think to construct some of the mountain roads as well. So what this is reflected in gameplay is that Incans are the only civilization that can work mountain tiles. So Carl's got yield icons on. You can see that each mountain has like 2 production there. And as we build terrace farms next to them, they're going to get some food as well. So we have a whole new set of extra tiles that we can work if we want to. So the normal disadvantage of like, oh, well, there's mountains here and I can build districts next to them, but I can't work them. That does not exist for the Inca. They don't have a lot of inherent yield, but again, you get the terrace farms and it's really going to help you out. So that is the real kind of draw for that.
Nice, nice. All right, and it looks like we are about to build one of our terrace farms, which is awesome. While I was prepping for this live stream, I ended up looking up a bunch of random Incan facts. Since you were making them up during our practice yesterday, I figured...
it was. There were some good ones.
I figured I should like have some real ones just on hand. But it was kind of cool just to like see these things coming up in my Googling that just fit in with the abilities that you guys brought into the game, like just their rich agricultural system and how well that did.
7 food. Oh, it's so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a really good early. But yes, sorry, continue.
Yes.
I was distracted.
Oh no, that was just about it. It was just how their agriculture was like so well developed, and we're bringing that in with these terrace farms that are giving you insane food yields.
Yeah.
Right. What would normally be a harsh environment to most people, the Inca made the best of it.
Yeah, for sure. And the terrace farms are one of those. I mean, it is a farm, so it will benefit with different upgrades throughout the tech and civics tree, right?
Right. As your technology increases, I think the sort of like triangular field system that's somewhere in there. I forget exactly.
I think it's feudalism.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah. So the terrace farms, S farms, will be able to benefit from that as well.
Nice. Yeah, this is going to be
bonuses.
Right. This is going to be a powerful Civ. So we've gotten a lot of questions already on how the Kapaknyan works.
Sure.
So we're not quite there yet in-game, but if you want to just talk a little bit about, how you build it, how the movement costs work there, that would be great.
Yeah, so the Kapaknyan and the mountain tunnel later on for everybody else is an improvement that goes on a mountain tile. Mountains still can't be moved on directly by units, but if you have, in the case of the Incas, a builder next to a mountain, that builder can use a charge to make a Kapaknyan on an adjacent mountain. So you can be like, I'm going to build a Kapaknyan here or over here. Once there's a Kapaknyan on a mountain range, you can basically think of them almost like teleports or warp gates. So you can enter into a Kapaknyan from the land somewhere and exit out of a Kapaknyan somewhere else. Nice. So you could have like a single long stringy mountain range and you just have one Kapaknyan in the middle there. You could enter on one side and exit from the other side. Or you could have like a Kapaknyan over on the eastern side and another Kapaknyan over on the western side. You can enter in the east and come out the west. So that's how the sort of like movement works. Yeah. As far as the costs, we treat them just like crossing a river. So it sort of like has 2 extra movement points than normal. So it's normally going to take your whole turn, but depending on the mountain range, you can potentially move really far. So that's where like really like finding a really nice mountain range is really important and can be really fun on certain maps. So moving across one mountain tile is the same as moving from here all the way across the map. Yeah, so you just like whoop, zip right over.
And surprisingly enough, I mean, there was some development challenges with that. Oh yeah. There, Antonio, you worked on those for quite a while. I mean, it's just basically because the game, I mean, for so long, and when we write the initial code for the game, it's like we base certain things on general assumptions. In this case, mountains are impassable; they're not usable. That's the main characteristic of them as a map feature. Yeah. And then we go on and we change that, and we say, oh, okay, well, you can use them now. And then the Pathfinder, we had to make some major changes in the Pathfinder so that it didn't pathfinding algorithm so that it didn't, go crazy. And so there was. More difficult than you would think it would be. You come up with the idea like, oh yeah, we'll have them use mountains, and then you actually start doing it.
Oh wait, how's this gonna work?
So
Carl's gonna build our first one here, There it is.
Nice.
So yeah, Inca, like, they have one of the only civs with 2 unique improvements as well, because the Kapagyan's technically a unique improvement on Pachacuti as a leader.
Okay.
Which is super cool. But yeah, like Brian was saying, it's a really cool feature, but it was very challenging to implement. There were a lot of like gotchas, and I got to give a shout out to our engineering team and our art team.
Yeah.
Who did like a lot of rule bending to try to get this, but I think it's been totally worth it.
Yeah, I remember there were some things that we were trying to try with base game with mountain like stuff, and there were just so many technical hurdles, and
Yeah.
it's awesome to see that like we found a way to fix that and move forward with this very cool feature.
We wanted to make sure it was really fun too. Like one of the first ideas was that, okay, well maybe it's basically like a canal over a mountain range. So
Okay.
you have a mountain range and you just like, oh, like you can go through this on the middle. But what we found was like, unlike canals over water, like cutting through a mountain range just one tile isn't usually that great. Like
Yeah.
you can usually just go around in most cases.
yeah.
So having it be a little bit more powerful with this sort of like teleportation mechanic made a lot more sense.
Nice.
And even though it's going to be like really silly on some maps, I think that's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Now-
so here we go. Carl has a settler linked up with a slinger. He's going to move it through the mountain tunnel they hop out on the other side. So
That's
we're going to be able to settle next to that natural wonder.
Now can you build Kapagyans outside of your territory?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in fact, I think that one is outside Carl's territory, and then like he could down by his scout in the south
Oh, yeah.
make
Okay.
one there. So yeah,
So,
as soon as
yeah,
there's
way powerful for the Inca, especially because your borders are not fully enveloping entire mountain ranges. by that
Yeah.
point, so
Oh, and we've got a map
Carl's
pin
planning
coming.
here.
yes.
Okay, he's adding another one.
There's no tilde over the N. I'm disappointed. That's okay. I don't know how to input it.
We gave him an English keyboard, so it's much more difficult.
It's true. Yeah, so what I like to do when I'm playing the Inca is kind of like find a cool mountain range like this one and make it the sort of heartland of my empire,
Yeah.
and sort of have like my cities all dotted around it and be able to zip like a super highway in between all of them.
So we're doing this holiday live stream. Like tomorrow's the solstice, right?
Tomorrow's the solstice.
Is it?
Yes.
Shortest day of the year.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So the Incans actually have, this is something I didn't know either. Well, I mean, they have their solstice celebration. What's it called?
Tell us about it.
Well, I had to remember. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Got some notes.
Yes. Wanted to make
I'm
sure I
proud of
pronounced
you.
it.
You did a lot of
yes,
research.
Inti Raymi is the name of the, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the name of the festival. It's the Festival of the Sun.
Okay.
So, it's a big deal. Like was their biggest celebration. So
Rad.
we're missing it by a day, but that's, that's
You know,
okay.
we're really close though. So
We are
Good
close.
job.
Yeah.
In terms of live stream
was fun.
dates, we nailed it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, for sure. I mean, we're the
course.
Thursday before,
Yeah.
and we're keeping to our schedule, so everything's, it's like we planned it.
Totally.
Right. Totally.
Now, I was doing my own research on the Incas, and maybe mine shows a little more of my personal interests, but I found that they were very successful in their skull surgeries. So they had...
trepanning. This.
Yeah. So they had a 80% success survivability rate with skull surgeries compared to 50% in the American Civil War, which I thought was really interesting because I like weird medical stuff.
I think it was all aliens. I think it was all space aliens. They taught them how to do all these things.
Yeah, man.
The
It's aliens.
squished skulls too.
Yeah,
Did you?
Yeah.
They would wrap the children's skulls so that they'd be, and it's because they wanted
like
to make
aliens.
them look more like aliens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty much the history behind that.
I don't know that that's historically accurate
Oh,
Once they get
completely,
to the
but
future era,
It's
there's a
absolutely
hidden
true.
unique ability where they actually get UFOs.
that's not true.
It's not
correct? Okay. All right. That's not
On
true.
your leg. It's not true, internet. Don't believe me.
All right. So we've got our second city here. He's moving down the mountain range, which I feel like is probably the best way to kind of do these Incan settlements is just follow the mountain ranges.
I think so, yeah. That way your empire stays really well connected. Another thing, too, is like the mountain tunnels. I think I mentioned this a little bit on the last stream with Canada, but railroads, water tiles, mountain tunnels, Kapagyan, and canals are all considered like these transportation engineering projects that make movement faster around the map. And all of them will give benefits to your trade routes
Oh,
if they're
okay.
international. So
So you can send a trade route through a Kapagyan.
yeah,
Okay.
and because it's so efficient, you'll make more gold that way if you're going
Nice.
to another civilization. So, and other civs can use trade routes through yours as well. So it sort of like opens up the trade network as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's see. I did see another question. Oh, can you build a Kapaknyan on a volcano?
I went back and forth on this. I don't remember where I landed actually at the moment. I don't think you can.
I don't think you should.
I don't. It's a little dangerous.
Seems
At this point in
dangerous.
development, our brains are gravy. You know, like we're
also-
balancing, we're fixing, we're dashing.
I
Yeah.
also-
So
yeah.
it on defense.
I
Where did we end up on
I remember seeing a bug report about this. I
Yeah.
will say that. I believe I disabled it on mountains, on volcanoes, because it just felt like, well, like that doesn't seem to make
doesn't- yeah,
sense.
it
feels-
Like how
feels
there'd
kinda
be
wrong.
lava. And like if, especially later on, because it's basically the same rules as mountain tunnels. But once it gets to mountain tunnels, it's like, are you tunneling into a volcano? Like I feel like that would cause problems, right? So it just seemed too unrealistic. So I believe I disabled it.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. Sorry. I'm
right.
remembering like 5 different versions of this system in my head.
Yeah, no, that's, you know, that is the hard thing for you guys.
Yeah.
Just during development, you know, things are changing very rapidly. We're doing
Well, it started as a
balances and bug
7,
fixes.
and then I made it a 2, and then I made it a 3, except for in these cases.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a juggling of numbers
Yep.
in my head sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But-
Yeah, and then I bring you on here and I'm like, you have to know all these numbers exactly right now in front of the thousands of people that are watching.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah.
You got this. And of course, we're right before, you know, the holidays happening, so everyone's a little bit goofy right now. But yeah, this is a good reminder for everyone watching. This is a pre-release build. We're not coming out until February 14th, 2019. So you may say things that change. There may
Still
be
tweaking
bugs.
some balance,
We are
yeah.
tweaking. We are balancing, and still kind of playing around with it right now. But
And we get to celebrate Christmas too, in between that time.
that's true.
From now until then, we get to
We do have a little bit of a break.
we get to have Christmas this year.
Yay!
It's good.
Is that why you brought eggnog on the
I
stream
did. I forgot about that. Thank you.
I like that it's just sitting out on the floor because, you know, why not? It's probably fine.
It's pasteurized. We're good. You want some eggnog?
I will take some, yes.
All right.
I think Sarah has some tea.
Yeah, I've got tea. I'm all
She's
good.
being classy.
I didn't bring
Thank you.
I didn't bring any nutmeg though. So
That's okay.
Oh,
I know.
The worst.
I know.
Yeah, so the Kapaknyan, like the 2-movement river rule was actually a fairly recent, I think I did that a month and a half ago. Before then, it was no extra movement cost. You could just zip around, which was a little bit too good.
Yeah.
Especially if you had like a horseman or something, you're just like,
Oh,
"Shwa!" and charge through the mountains. It was
Yeah, you're kind of flying.
too powerful.
Yeah.
Now, are there any units that can't use them, or is everyone free to use them? I mean, like rock bands, for example, religious units.
Everyone is free to use them.
Okay.
Yeah, and even though it costs, kind of like rivers, like even though it costs extra movement, like if you're short, like if you're a warrior, you only have 2 movement. You can make to the other side. We're like, okay, just
Yeah.
use your whole turn and you can get there.
Okay. I
Still
just
love
want to
his
say,
animations.
I know. I was
Those are
like,
amazing.
I love his animations so much. He's got so much personality and character. And, you know, that was one of the big things that was part of the original vision for Civilization 6 was bringing these big personalities and
Right.
pushing them as far as we could. And it's
And we can have some fun with them too. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, the amount of character that we get into them is we can really punch them out and kind of make them larger than life.
Yeah, and our
You know?
animation
And that
team
was
kicks it
evident.
out of the park.
Yeah,
Modeling,
and that was evident
everybody's-
from the get-go,
does a great
from
job.
Gilgamesh all the
Yep.
way through.
Mm-hmm.
It just, you know, just really getting those personalities in there, which
And it
Just-
ties
it's a
more than
joy to
ever
play.
before in the Civ series to the gameplay of them too, because we have these historical agendas. Like Pachacuti's agenda is based around mountains as well. So
he wants to settle near mountains.
yeah. So
Okay.
if you're playing against him as an AI, the AI will want to settle near mountains, which is coincidentally what I like to do. And if you're playing against him, he's gonna have a positive opinion of you if you stay away from mountains. Like
Okay.
mountains are like his territory.
Okay.
He's
So if you
sort
leave
of-
the mountains to him, he's happy.
leave the mountains to him,
Alright.
you know, let him have the mountains. He's all good.
That makes sense.
But yeah, having these sort of elements to work into their personalities for the animation, for the dialogue, for the voiceover is really fun.
Yeah. Do you know what language he speaks?
I do not.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I know that it has a really just interesting tone to it. Like it's a really cool voice actor that we got for him. I was sitting in on a lot of the voice sessions for Base Game when I was the producer for Civilization 6, and it was just really cool to hear, especially some of the older languages or
Yeah.
dead languages. And
Well, that's the challenge, though, right? I mean, it's not so easy. Like when you talk about finding good voice actors and things like that, you know, for languages that are active now, it's not very difficult. There's plenty of voice actors that you can find.
Right.
But when we start when we start using some of these ancient languages or much older languages that aren't really commonly used, it becomes quite a challenge to find, you know, really good voice actors for that. So it's always a joy when we find somebody that's really pushing it and really doing a good job, and it helps the animators as well.
I remember I sat in on a voiceover session for our voice actor for Pericles in the base game, and just like hearing ancient Greek and just like how, and like it's not only the voice actor, but in some cases with the ancient languages too, there's also like a coach. So like, okay, well, let's try pronouncing it this, like an academic who's like, okay, well, like here's how it actually is supposed to sound and here's what it actually means. And then like the voice actor might not know the language themselves, but they're sort of coached through it. Because they know a related language or a similar language. So yeah, like the level of research and authenticity that goes into it, from the concept art all the way through to voiceover, is just staggering.
We try to get as close as we can.
Yeah.
We try to.
And chat is trying to help us out. They say that the language is Quechua, which I may be pronouncing incorrectly.
Okay, I did see that come up in some of my research, but I wasn't sure if he was speaking that as well, because I didn't know if it was a multilingual empire. I didn't remember that. So, cool.
Yeah. All right.
I think that's the same language that Kapaknyan is. Yeah.
And some folks are asking, what is the Incan start bias? Mountains?
They are biased towards mountains.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
Be a shame if it was not that way.
Okay. Tunnels, Kapaknyan as well as mountain tunnels, can they go through natural wonders?
Well, depends what you mean by through. So you can't build them on natural wonders. Natural wonders are sort of like an entity unto themselves. But if there's like, for example, the Icelandic volcano that I won't try to pronounce, but I know you've been to, if that's part of a mountain range, as long as there's a mountain range, you can kind of like go around it. You can go through it.
Got it.
But yeah, you can't build a Kapaknyan or a mountain tunnel on a natural wonder. You have to go around it.
Excellent. All right.
So Garl's doing pretty well. We got a city next to the natural wonder. We got 2 Kapaknyans here.
Yeah.
So we can, you know, have builders and other
I wasn't paying attention to
shuffled back and forth.
What is Montezuma's problem? Has he got some issues with us?
When doesn't he have issues?
Yeah,
I know.
that's just his thing.
I think he wants our land, yeah. And Carl's playing on Emperor difficulty because he's a boss. And even that's probably an easy time for him. But yeah, so the AI started with a bunch of extra settlers on that difficulty level. So that's why we're seeing such aggressive and quick forward settling by the AI here, especially the Aztec. The Maori are kind of a wild card because, yeah, like they start in the ocean. We're not sure exactly, like, you know, they're kind of down in the south of us, but they could be going around the coast. So their city placement's been a lot more unpredictable when I play, which is
surprise.
Yeah, they're really.
I'm over here now.
Right.
That's
really
a fun
cool
one.
with.
Just like when you see where they pop up, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not as obvious as, you know, our spacing algorithm and everything for the civs, and because they can just literally show up on your front door.
A couple folks are asking if we will be keeping the same schedule with leader releases and live streams. We are actually going to be taking 2 weeks off, so we will be back in the new year to talk to you guys. But, you know, keep an eye on our social media. There might be a couple of fun little things showing up on there.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Nudge, nudge. You know, just little things. Okay, so here's another question. Natural wonders that are mountains. Can the Inca work them? I know, I'm throwing all of the edge cases at you.
Well, so I have to go into the code a little bit for this one. So, like, natural wonders are kind of weird in the way that they are treated as terrain because they're kind of like the terrain that's underneath the natural wonder. The natural wonder is kind of treated in terms of code like a feature.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a forest or a jungle, like a natural wonder is added on top of something.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, and it makes it's a little bit easier for certain map generation things to do it that way. But because they're a feature, they're not always technically a mountain underneath for certain rules. So I don't believe that the Incans can work directly natural wonders, but I'm not certain.
Okay.
Most natural wonders are they're either workable by themselves because they're passable, or they buff the adjacent tiles. In which case, you know, you'd still be able to take advantage as the Inca.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is a really deserty area over here.
It is. Petra City, please.
Yeah. Do we have any more wonders coming that are sand or desert specific?
Featured desert.
We have a couple already. I don't believe there are any specifically for that in Gathering Storm. Like Jebel Barkle was a big one in Rise and Fall.
Yeah.
That was sort of like, or that actually might have been with the Nubia DLC. But it was. Yeah. But it gives you iron, and we've, like many of the wonders and policies for Gathering Storm, we've updated it because we've been working on this, accumulating resources.
Oh yeah, that was another one of those things. It's like, oh, that'll be easy to do, and then, yeah.
And it ended up, rippling out as a lot of changes. Because I think,
It does.
Yeah, in the DLC, it gave you just like 2 or 3 iron, just like, here you go. But now you get iron per turn, you get oil per turn. So we needed to change that to be like, okay, well, this is how much you get per turn. And it's still really useful. But yeah, especially.
Very much.
Yeah, so Jebel Barkle and Petra, of course, are like the sort of like marquee desert wonders for me.
I see Petra on the front page of Reddit all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's just the first one you think of. You're like, oh, okay, desert tiles. What do I do with these? I can't settle here. And you're like, Petra. And then you get sniped by some other civ.
Of course.
And then you cry.
I feel like I just saw a little bit of a storm, either a volcano or a sandstorm somewhere. Thank you, Carl. Okay, yep. We had
okay. I will say too.
Volcano?
There might have been.
Yeah.
I don't see
Okay,
volcanoes
yeah,
on
we've
here
got some
yet,
dust storms, some floods. None of this is really near us, and a hurricane out at
I
sea.
will say, playing as the Inca, one of the dangers, since you start
boy.
near mountains, is sometimes you start near volcanoes. So
Yeah.
I have many times been like, well, here's a great mountain range. It has a bunch of volcanoes, but I hope it'll work out. And sometimes it does, and other times your terrace farms get blown up and
Obliterated.
You have to rebuild them.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's worth the long-term trade-off mostly. But, yeah, you just got to be careful and maybe, like, settle not right next to them.
Right.
Not build your key districts right next to them. I've made that mistake before.
Now that's part of the map changes that we have for Gathering Storm, right? The map gen changes with the long ranges of of mountains along continental divides.
Yeah, kind of like simulating some tectonic plates
Yeah.
or mechanics. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting feature. I'm
That's
a
a
little
nice
bit of
detail.
a rock nerd, so
Nice.
I
Geology
loved
nerds.
Iceland for that.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
Just seeing all the volcanic rock, it's like, oh my god, it's amazing.
I can give, I don't think we've talked about this on the stream yet, but there is one of the new sort of city-state alterations we've done. We have the Nazca city-state, and they will give you a unique improvement that is also useful for desert. We were talking about desert earlier.
Yeah.
And I've used that in one of my Inca playthroughs before, because I was like, well, kind of like this one, I had a mountain empire, but then there was a desert nearby. I was like, I want to expand, but what do I do with this? Became suzerain of Nazca and allowed me to build the Nazca line improvement, which is also very Southern American and themed, right? So you have these, like sort of like really cool patterns, which were obviously to worship aliens.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what they do
Well,
is
it's to
they
signal them. Come here.
Yeah, right over
Come
here. And so they buff the tiles around them. You can't. It makes the tile itself unworkable, but it buffs the tiles around them. So I had like a bunch of Nazca lines
Nice.
and Petra in like a desert city as the Inca, and I had like a mountain, like a Kapaknyan that went right from my capital down to, and it was awesome.
Oh,
So
that's
it's a
really great.
fun combo.
Nice. All right. Well, we are at about our halfway mark. I think we have seen most of what we wanted to show with the Incan Empire here. Carl's giving us a nice overview of our 3 cities that we got. We've got a couple Kapaknyans going through there. But I think it's time that we can come back to the studio and get prepped for our next save.
Sounds good. Cool.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, we did a live stream for Hungary. And we wanted to show off canals because, Ed had this idea that he wanted to turn Hungary into this great naval superpower. And we didn't quite get to canals. And people were very mad. So we apologize. But now we're going to show you that same stream. I think it's in the information era.
Yeah. We're just about to research robotics.
Yes. So we've got all those canals. They're all up and running. And we do have a little surprise coming that I think will have a bit of an effect on the domination victory.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, might make that a little bit easier.
Nice
for us.
treat for the domination victory.
Yeah. So once we get this up and running, we can take a look at that. So, Brian, tell us one of your fun facts that you found about the Inca.
About the Inca?
Yes.
I thought I already told all those. Right?
Oh, did you tell all of them?
Well, one of the ones
I
you
thought-
told me this morning that I remember was like their road network was almost as big or as big as the Roman Empire.
Right. So all
is crazy.
roads lead to Cusco.
Yeah.
Right.
And not
like
only
that.
roads, but like they're going through mountains. Like they're really hard to build.
Right.
And they didn't have the wheel.
They did not have they did not have the wheel.
Yeah, it was this system of runners that we were talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we couldn't disable the tech boost for wheels for the Inca.
That would have been a little too mean. Yeah, I
think
think
so.
historically accurate.
I think so.
That would be cruel.
That would be
All right. So
just because they didn't doesn't mean that they couldn't have.
This is about alternate history.
They just
That's
didn't
true.
need
Yeah,
it.
we
Yes.
got a Hungary save where we're a giant naval empire with the Panama Canal. So yeah, Civ can be about history, but can also not be about
So
history.
here we are with the Hungary save.
yes.
Look
okay.
at that.
Look at that
sweet,
navy.
Sweet fleet.
Sweet
Oh my
fleets.
goodness. What are you gonna do with that, Carl? Are you just like hanging out?
Well, we all
outside
know
Poland there.
that Carl
He's rubbing his
is
hands
a
together
peaceful
in a
player.
sinister manner.
But yeah, we've got
Goodness.
a big series of canals that has taken our inland settled Hungary cities and allowed us to create all these connections to the greater sea.
Yeah. So I think we got a canal outside the city in the north there. We got one out to the sea. We've got canals up in the Arctic even. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so our
Alright.
naval empire is great.
Yes. Now we do also have, I want to point out, since we're basically centered over a good section of it, we have this new flood barrier
Yes,
building.
it is a building.
Okay. So how do these work?
So how these work? We try to give, for the climate change things that can happen in the game, we try to give players a way to counteract most of them. So in the event of when there's global warming that happens and the sea levels rise, there's 3 levels of rising that can happen. Each time there are some tiles that get flooded and then submerged. So yeah, right here, right by one of our cities, some of those tiles that used to be land have now been submerged and are now water. So now it sucks, but it's also kind of great for our navy. It's kind of like it's a natural canal.
So it acts as a coast tile, correct?
It does.
Okay.
Water units can move through it. Yeah, so, but if we wanted to sort of like prevent that from happening, or if we had flooded tiles that we wanted to kind of keep land and make sure that we get the water out, we can build this flood barrier building. And much like other sort of earlier city wall buildings that are purely defensive, it goes in the city center, but you see visuals through it for it throughout the map. So yeah, like those flood barriers are on the coast there, making sure that if the sea levels rise, our land will stay dry and workable. And you know, we had a visual for that in the opening cinematic, which kind of like reflects that as well, which is really cool. So yeah, and also like the more water they have to kind of like hold back, the more expensive the gold maintenance is.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it's not like it's not a solution without downsides.
Yeah. As all things
Yes.
tend to be.
Strategic choice.
Well, that would just be no fun then, right? You just build the wall and you're done.
Like, oh, I
Yeah.
build it and I don't have to worry about it ever. That's not good. Yeah.
Now, it doesn't act as a defensive wall, correct?
No.
No.
All right, so you still need defensive walls. My antlers are falling off.
One of the nice things that Carl's done here in the save is he's built mountain tunnels and railroads all throughout his empire. So if we were to say, you know, nefariously declare war on someone, he could get his army mobilized around his empire very easily.
All right,
Which is good for later domination victories, which in some cases end up being quite a slog, trying to move your units from one part of the map to the other, trying to move your large force of military around. And so having the railroads now and being able to traverse mountains it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of lost where it was on the map, but Carl just put down a geothermal
Geothermal plant, yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, so geothermal fissures are a feature, kind of like I was talking about earlier, so they can go on top of other tiles. And they're done at map generation. And Hungary has particular bonuses for them, I believe, with their bath.
Yep.
But all players get access to the geothermal plant later on in the game. So we talked a little bit about power in the last live stream with Canada. There are 3 types of power plants that use resources, burn them every turn to provide power in a region. But there's also green renewable sources of power. And geothermal plant is one of the first ones you get access to.
Okay.
So as long as you got a geothermal fissure in your city, you can build a geothermal plant on top of it. Other ones are you can have a hydroelectric dam in the dam district.
Ooh, okay. Now, do you build that on top of the dam, or is it a different type of dam?
It's so in terms of gameplay rules, it's a building that goes inside the dam district. But you know, it's kind of it doesn't like put a building on top. It's just it's a different visual. You see, there's electric sparks flying if you zoom in. It's got a really cool visual. But yeah, so it's sort of an upgrade to the dam district.
All right, and up in this. I can't read that from here because I'm slightly blind right now. But up in that top east city that he had, I know he was producing, I might have missed this opportunity, but he did have a factory. I think it was this one here. Yep, a coal plant here.
Right, there's a coal plant.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different types of plants that we could put in this city here. We could put oil, we could put coal. I think we also have the ability to put a nuclear one.
Yes.
Correct.
So how does that work with gameplay? Like, can you switch them at any given time? How does that work?
So you decide which one to build first. You know, in your industrial zones district, it's the third building, and depending on what you have unlocked at the time, you'd be like, okay, yeah, let's build a coal one and let's build an oil one. If you change your mind later, you can switch it, and the way you do that is through city projects.
Okay.
So if you decide later, like in this case, we have a coal power plant, but we also have oil like right next door.
Right.
It doesn't matter that it's close to oil, but we're clearly making a lot of oil every turn. We might want to say like, okay, let's do oil instead. You know, there's less carbon emissions in the atmosphere. Maybe it's better for our overall strategy. Maybe we want to trade our coal away to some other player for a nice profit. If we want to change, we open up the city production panel and we say like, hey, let's do a convert to oil power project, which costs less than building an oil power plant from scratch, but it still costs some production.
Right.
So you kind of take some time and you transfer the city over, and then it uses that power plant.
It's a good way to pivot how you're doing it, so you're not, you know, if once you build that first power plant,
You're not-
first coal, you're not locked
You're not
into
locked
that
in.
for the rest of the game. You can
and here we
actually
go.
change.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the nuclear power plants are especially good because they have like almost no carbon emissions. And right now their gameplay is very similar in terms of like their inherent bonuses to the coal and oil power plants, but I'm actually going through some balance changes to make them even better right now. And they come at a risk though.
They do, yeah. So one of the things that we introduced into the game too was the possibility of a nuclear accident. Now, as we've seen in history, we've seen examples of different degrees of nuclear accident.
Right.
So, like all random events, random disaster events in the game, there's sort of 3 levels of how bad the event is, and so we kind of structured it that way, you know, kind of. So I kind of modeled them after sort of the 3 bigger nuclear accidents in history. I think like 3 Mile Island was one, Fukushima was another, and then of course Chernobyl, like the biggest that we know of. And so I scale from there. And so what's interesting is in they do release a little bit of radiation, so it's much similar in the way that if a nuke actually goes off, so like those tiles would be irradiated for a certain number of turns.
Right.
And of course you would have to remove that radiation just like you would anything else. I mean, in the previous game, using, you know, like military engineers or builders or things like that. And
But Brian, how do I prevent such a thing from happening?
I'm glad you asked.
Great question, Anton.
So there's a lot of projects in this iteration of Civ, and so there's actually a project where it's called Recommissioning a Nuclear Reactor. It's kind of like reactor maintenance, but I was informed by one of our team who knows a lot about such things, that you don't actually really do maintenance on a reactor. You basically just rebuild the entire reactor. So that's why it's called Recommissioned Nuclear Reactor. And it sort of resets the timer on the nuclear reactors. And I guess what I didn't mention is that the possibility of a nuclear accident happening increases the older your reactor is. So we just, for gameplay purposes, we measure that in turns. So you get a little indicator down on that project how old the reactor is in that particular city, and you know whether or not you and if it's possible to have a certain type of accident, things like that.
So there's a risk rewards. Like if you're in the middle of a war, and you're like, I need to like keep cranking out these military units.
Right.
Let's let the reactor sit for a while. Okay, but it might blow up in your face.
Right.
Literally.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's good because obviously you have uranium, and unless you're building tons of nukes, you have the uranium to do that. And then you can save things like oil for your military units that need to consume them, or any cities too that you might not have a reactor in. But so they become very useful. Trajan is not happy with us.
Handling his sword.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Carl, it looks like, is planning an attack on Poland.
What?
I know, who would have expected that? Now, they do have some aircraft circling their buildings, so we might run into a little bit of trouble there. Aircraft have been buffed a bit, correct?
Yes, they have. As we end up doing when when we're working on an expansion, we not only introduce new content and new game systems, we also really take a good look at the existing content in the game and the balance of the game and things like that. And so one of the things that got an update this time around was aircraft. And we really punched up their abilities, their attack abilities. I feel like we might have had kid gloves with those at first because we kind of had the memory of Civ 5 as the aircraft kind of being the end-all be-all. You get to a point where that's all you built, and so there really wasn't a land war per se.
Yeah, and you could stack them so high that it was very powerful.
Exactly, and so so with 6, we had that kind of in the back of our mind, so we didn't necessarily want them to be the dominating unit type, but we still wanted them to be effective. But hindsight is 20/20. I mean, when you think about it now, it's like we look at it and we might have, kept them a little bit too low. So we buffed them up about where we think they need to be, and they're quite formidable now and quite a good asset to have.
Well, hopefully that doesn't stop Carl from taking over the entire map.
I have faith.
Which I'm sure is his actual dream.
We had that giant fleet to help him, so I think he's in pretty good shape.
Now, I think it's a good time that we can talk about... Oh, here we go.
Oh.
Golden Gate Bridge.
I saw building that, yeah.
Yep.
So we got...
Right on top of a shipwreck.
Yeah, and...
and a flood barrier?
Yeah, getting right into the flood barriers there.
Aw. It's got really
gorgeous
great music.
Gorgeous. I'll never get over the Wonder movies. I always watch them. It's one of those things I never skip.
Yeah. Also, the top left corner of that has a little replay button. I'm surprised how many posts I come across on the internet of people discovering this for the first time. So you want to see it again? You can. Just click that button as many times as you want. Yeah. Because they're great.
Now, the Golden Gate Bridge does let you cross like a bridge.
It does, yeah. So it's kind of like a reverse canal.
Yeah.
Sort of, in a way. Yeah.
Nice. All right, so we finished robotics. So we now have the ability to build a brand new unit. We have not talked about this just yet. The GDR.
The GDR.
Yes, the gun deployment rig, more affectionately known as the giant death robot. So this one was fun. So early on in development, one of Anton's goals was that he wanted to extend out the tech tree. And it was something we also talked about. Ed wanted to do as well, but we wanted to extend that out and make that part interesting. So we're sort of creating this future era. So we're thinking, okay, what can we do with this? And of course, on that roster, because we have another era, well, we need another progression for units. And so in the initial design for that, of course, we had kind of upgraded equivalents of all the units. And when we were going through that, it really wasn't doing much for me. I was trying to create these sort of future weapons. I started trying to merge two of the lines together, like heavy cavalry and light cavalry unit types would be, bound into one, all these things. And so then I thought, well, what about the giant death robot? What about that? It's cool. So then it just became, then the idea was that let's make this a late game super unit.
Nice.
So in the way from a design standpoint, the way I was thinking about it, I was like, what if you were to build a Wonder, but that Wonder was a military unit that can cause a lot of destruction? So the giant death robot became it. They're extremely expensive to build. They have high maintenance costs. They require uranium, and but they come out with these great, amazing abilities. They're great as a base unit, but the other thing that's interesting about them is instead of having a bunch of different units in the tech tree, we decided to have unlocks for the giant death robot in the tech tree. So basically upgrades for the giant death robot. So just kind of going through them, one of them ups their anti-air strength. So they have a much better defense against air units, which are probably going to be their greatest threat. There's another one which is like a movement bonus. They can move even further than they already can. There's a defensive bonus, so they basically get up armored. And
these are all upgrades that you can.
These are all
unlock.
upgrades.
Okay.
So when you research that tech, the way it works is your existing giant death robot gets that upgrade.
They get a new module.
They get a new module, and any future upgrades you get are automatically applied to any GDRs that you might have on the maps, or any ones you create in the future. It's sort of like a free promotion, and that's kind of how we visualize them in the game. But they can end up doing some really cool things. And then, I'm sorry, the fourth upgrade that you can get is the particle cannon, the siege cannon. There's so many different names for it. We'd have to look it up. But yeah, the particle cannon is it's basically for taking down cities.
Yeah.
So if you're a domination player and you're tired and you're and you're tired, you want to wrap this game up. You know you got it. You know you're the force to be reckoned with in the world. You can roll one of these giant death robots out, and and they're going to be tough to kill on the battlefield, but also makes it much easier for you to roll up and take down cities and have fun dominating the world.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's also, like, each time you earn one of these sort of like technological upgrade promotions, the appearance of the GDR changes on the map too.
Yep.
Like there's these little sort of modules that so not only will they be more effective in terms of gameplay, but they will look cooler and cooler.
They look cooler. They get these attachments. Yeah, the way the art team did it was they get these multiple attachments. One of the things that's actually in the case in this particular build, but it won't be in the final build, is that one of the abilities of the GDR is the jump ability. We put that in, and basically, so as if mountains weren't already not a problem with tunnels and railroads and things, for this unit, it's not a problem at all. They can basically jump or fly over mountains. So there's nothing standing in the giant death robot's way in moving across the map. The other interesting thing is that they don't actually embark. They don't actually, most of our units, when they go into the water, they turn into a little transport ship. They use the movement of the transport ship, but they don't have any of the combat abilities that they would have had before. It's like if they were being attacked, it's like they're attacking this transport ship. Not so for the GDR. The GDR can basically wade through the oceans, and it can fight while it's on the ocean, so it can go toe-to-toe with naval ships if it wants.
Yeah,
it's general,
that show up.
Okay, that's not, we don't have those in there.
No, I'm so.
But if there were non-licensed giant monsters in the sea.
Totally.
If there were giant monsters, radioactive monsters that came out of the sea, you would be able to use your giant death robot in order to, kind of duke it out with them or something like that.
Their movement is great. Yeah, and they, like, the jump ability, I think we were thinking about changing it to be on one of the technological, on the movement upgrade instead of being a base ability just because it's so good.
I'm sorry, that's what I was about to explain, but I got sidetracked.
There's a lot of cool things.
The squirrels are running around in my head right now.
It's okay.
There's a lot of good stuff for them.
Yeah. So that will actually be, part of the movement upgrade and not, I had originally done it as a base ability. It makes much more sense as an upgrade. And of course, you want to pursue those upgrades, especially if you're going to start fielding these robots. So,
yeah, so kind of like we did with the Rock Band and the Culture Victory, we had this new future era, so we had to re-examine all of the victory conditions. We haven't talked about science too much yet, and I think we're going to hold off on that. But Culture Victory, you get the Rock Bands, and you kind of like go on tour around the world to, get your Culture Victory and target specific players. And GDR, Giant Death Robot, you upgrade the unit, unlock the unit itself, but also these upgrades, and then you can sort of like use it as a key piece on the battlefield to finish that domination victory. And between its movement bonuses and the jump stuff and the upgrades and all the mountain tunnels and railroads, you can kind of like wrap up a domination victory much more quickly.
Right, that's actually a good point. Yeah, because I mean that was the way we were thinking about it. Is like there's sort of like this bag of tricks that players can unlock for the different victories. Like you were saying, like the Rock Band is sort of like for the cultural victory. So the bag of tricks for the domination victory. The end game bag of tricks is going to be the GDR. So.
Now, I was talking to Carl before the stream, and we were just talking about like the balance of the GDR and how it fits in with, all the other units. And he was saying that it is incredibly strong at its base level against other units, but not against cities. And you really need to like follow that upgrade tree and keep going with it in order to be super effective.
Right, you're going to want the particle beam cannon if you're going to start rolling cities. Yeah. It's already strong as a base unit, absolutely. But I mean, part of that too is the balance is that we wanted something that was just this crazy, oh God, here comes the giant death robot. But we didn't want players to feel completely helpless against it. So,
for sure.
So they are not indestructible.
Okay. Now they are resistant to nukes, though, right?
They are. It's an interesting little thing there. It's like they're usually a nuke insta kills units.
Yeah.
And it's saying not so with the GDR. The GDR can just kind of stand there and
shrug it off.
Yeah. They will take some damage, but they don't completely shrug it off. But they're not obliterated by a nuke. So that's one other thing to consider is that you can't just nuke away a GDR. You have to deal with it conventionally.
Now, I do have a very important lore question about the GDR. Is this drone operated, or is there a little man in that suit?
I feel like my anime sensibilities require me to say that there's a man in a suit. But I don't know what our Civilpedia actually says at the moment.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this, Brian?
No,
I mean, because I would wear that if that was a suit. I'd get in there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to leave that up to. I'm going to leave that up to the imaginations of the players.
Okay.
We do not say one way or the other whether it's, you know, whether there's a human being in there driving the GDR, or whether it's an artificial intelligence, or whether it's like a genetically modified human being, you know, created in a test tube, and then maybe like raised from a small child, right, and then put in there and hooked up to wire. We're not going to say what it is. It could be one of those, any one of those.
It's whatever you want. And I want a pilot dude.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but that's just me.
I would definitely, I
mean,
think
there's something cool,
That
too,
sounds
about the
awesome.
idea, like that, you know, I mean, ideally, we would have your leader in there, you know, so.
Yeah.
There's a piece of artwork that one of our fans made, and I'm trying to remember, I don't remember who, and I apologize, but there's a famous world leader at the controls of a giant robot that looks like it's out of a 1950s science fiction movie, and it's crushing cars and it's doing things, and it's
really cool.
It's an amazing piece of artwork. It was my desktop for quite a while. But that would be cool, I think, but that was not within our reach. But you know, to see Hachikuti driving a GDR,
Yeah,
that
might have
pretty
required more art resources than I think Dennis was willing to.
awesome. Yeah.
And if you have more than one GDR, like which one's he going to be in? It just raises questions. So your leader is always the mastermind behind the scenes, making everything.
That's fair.
Controlling the little children hooked up to test tubes and things.
That is
Driving.
very creepy lore,
There
and I'm
it
going to
is.
pretend it's not that.
Okay.
There it is.
I just made it up. There it is. Oh,
Yay,
yeah. Look at that.
Elephant is shown for size comparison.
But the other
I don't
cool,
know that that's to scale.
the other cool thing, the other thing I love about this too is and I remember having a conversation with the art staff about this. This was like early on, you know, they started kind of gearing up to make a whole set of new futuristic units. We had some concept art already for those. We had some ideas for them. And then when we come around and we tell them, oh, okay, you know, I come in the room and table flip their whole, everything they've done before. And I said, no, we're not going to do that now. We're going to do the giant death robot. But fortunately, I caught it within a reasonable amount of time, and Jason did not kill me. But
Well, that's good.
yes. But the cool part is that they took the time that they would have had to spend on multiple units and were able to put it into one single unit. So it really shines. The animations are great. The upgrades are really cool when you get them, and the way the robot looks when he's moving around and things like that is just, it's fun to watch.
I like that it has like the little glowing,
The little glowing light.
eye.
Yeah.
It's kind of endearing in a way, and like, oh, good GDR. You go get Poland.
Be your robot friend of death and destruction.
It is very cool. All right, so it looks like we are not quite at war yet, but we will be soon. Okay, he nods, yes. We are nearing the end of our time. I think we'll probably want to finish in just a little bit, but I want to make sure we take some cities and actually get some combat going here before we sign off.
Oh,
for
Anton,
the
they
day.
asked if the GDR can fit, and how does it fit in the tunnel? Somebody did.
Just use your imagination.
Yeah.
You know, it's whatever your heart desires.
Well,
He
hamsters,
jumps over the tunnels, though.
hamsters can
Or
fit
jumps over the
anywhere that their head can fit.
Okay.
So maybe that's how the GDR is.
yeah, just kind of
If its
scrunches
nose
up.
can get in, it can just.
Yeah, just scrunch up. think that's probably it. Or
Compact.
just take, it doesn't need a full jump. He's just like a little baby hop. Like a mountain's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
That's true.
It's easy. So here our war is beginning.
Oh no. I do feel bad that we're going against Poland because she's my favorite leader.
Jadwiga's pretty great.
I know. She just always looks very happy and nice. But I think that we're gonna have to take her on.
Gandhi didn't like that. All right, so here the war is beginning.
That's okay, though. We don't got to worry about Gandhi, though. With the giant
Jump.
death robot, we don't really have to worry about Gandhi
It's true.
in the later game.
Let's jump.
All right, what's he doing here? Oh.
Ha!
Now, can he pillage districts and buildings?
I think he can pillage, yeah, just like any other military unit.
Yep. The only thing that he can't do is he cannot be. So the giant death robot. I say he. It could be a she. It could be a she giant death robot. But the giant death robot does not have a promotion tree like other units.
Right.
So it cannot be promoted
Doesn't
in
earn
that way. You
experience, yeah.
basically promote it with the upgrades. The other thing is that you cannot make corps or armies of giant
Okay.
death robots.
That
They're
would be
only the
too
singular.
much.
Yeah, it would be.
All right, what just happened?
Carl is beginning the offensive.
There we go. All right. Getting some dogfighting in here, which is awesome. I am really excited about the aircraft buff and just seeing that kind of take effect and how that's becoming. I don't know. It's just really cool to see air combat.
Yeah.
Oh, right in the mountains. All right.
While Carl's executing his offensive too, I might talk a little bit about how the future era works.
Yeah.
We can pull up a visual later. I don't want to distract Carl during this important time. But so the future technology era and the future civic era, there's 6 or 7 new nodes in each of them. And how they work is that, we decided to be a little bit humble. We don't know where the future's going. There's a lot of cool ideas out there, including stuff like giant death robots.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully, yeah. It could be, it could maybe not be. But basically what we did is we added a little bit of randomness and a little bit of hidden knowledge to the future era for both techs and for civics. So, okay, so yeah, Carl's pulling it up
Thank you,
here.
Carl.
So if we go to the information era here, yeah, so we've finished satellites, we got robotics, nuclear fission. Now, instead of going on to future technology like it did in the past, we we are kind of like progressing along, and as we go to the right here, we see that we don't actually know where the future is going yet. So the same set of technologies and civics will be in every game, but you don't know exactly where they're going to be or how they're going to link up with each other.
Nice.
So those 6 in the middle there, one is cybernetics, and we know that. We've sort of revealed it almost like you reveal something by exploring on the map because we finished robotics, which was because of the random rolls this game, robotics was determined to be the prerequisite of cybernetics. But, if we play another game, cybernetics might be kind of closer to the end. So we'll see that if we do cybernetics, we'll get that GDR upgrade for enhanced mobility for the +3 movement. But yeah, we sort of have to decide, like, what is our path going to be through here? And I'll say, too, like, there is a little bit of randomness, but it's not too much, and it's the same for all players. So everybody's going to be working with the same set of, like, okay, well, here's the configuration for the tech tree for everybody this game.
We don't want a time paradox where everyone's in a different version.
At different timelines.
Future.
Yeah, super confusing. Yeah, so it adds a little bit of uncertainty to the late game. You sort of have to, strategically pick, like, okay, I'm going to research this to kind of reveal more of where it's going to go. And based on that, like, I might get one upgrade before another and stuff like that. So it'll add a little bit of difference to your approach to victory each time. But hopefully within the bounds of, not too much risk where you can still rely on a strategy of, like, okay, well, I'm going for a domination victory. I'm getting GDRs. I know where those are. I might get an upgrades in a slightly different order. But, I just have to be aware of that.
Nice. And I do also want to talk, because we have many different energy farm types. We have wind farms and we have solar farms all over the map right now.
Yeah.
And I do want to talk about those and how they work.
Sure.
So
Yeah, Rome has some solar farms there. Quite a lot,
they have
actually.
a lot of solar farms.
Yeah.
Now, these are producing power, correct?
They are, yeah. So kind of like the geothermal plant, they are local improvements that will provide their city with power.
Okay.
You know, as I mentioned on the last stream, late game buildings like the research lab, like the broadcast tower, each have a power requirement. They'll run just fine without power, but really they're like almost 3 times as good as long as the city's powered. So you want to make sure that your cities have power while you can. Way one to do that is with the oil power plants, nuclear power plants, coal power plants. But second way is with renewable local tile improvements, renewable energy. So geothermal plants, wind farms, solar farms. One of the later game future era technologies you can get is offshore wind farms. So you can put, if you don't have room, you got too many districts and cool improvements you don't want to touch, you can put them out on the ocean, which is really cool.
Yeah, because that's kind of the balancer, right? So yes, you're getting, in a sense, free power that's, you know, not emitting tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, but you're sacrificing a tile on
it takes up space.
in your land. It takes up space just to provide power, whereas if you had a power plant, it only takes up one tile that can, you know, do a lot of power.
It's kind of more efficient in some ways, but yeah, it has some problems associated with it. And yeah, like if you have a bunch of, you know, green renewable power plant energy like wind farms and stuff like that, it also reduces your reliance on resources. So if you don't have coal or oil, or you do but you want to like trade it away to someone else, or you want to like, you know, satisfy Coupe's agenda of like not messing with the environment, you can do stuff like, you know, opt for green energy. It's just a strategic choice. And more options and flexibility open up the later in the game you get and the more into the future era you get.
Nice. All right, someone was asking earlier if you can go through the game and be completely green and emit no CO2.
You can.
Ed did it.
Ed did it. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah. Yeah, so you can role play that, and I think it's like a viable strategy. I mean, you might kind of hit some bumps in the industrial era, especially, but it is possible. Yeah,
it seems very.
Did we make it? Was there an achievement for that? I can't remember if we, or was that something that we just talked about?
I don't believe there is.
I'd have to look into that.
Sounds really tough.
Yeah. I'm glad Ed did it though.
Yeah. He did it with his Maori, one of his Maori games.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool. Like, there's some new roleplay kind of gaming options with this expansion that I'm really looking forward to. One of my favorite things about Civ is just going to the forums when the game is out and reading people's stories of their empires and how they rose and fell and
what antagonists and rivals they develop through the game. Yeah,
just their version of history that, you know, they've explored. And
I like that a lot too. Like, this is the Great Hungarian Navy game where we got robots and conquered Poland, or about to conquer Poland.
Yeah, I think we are getting pretty close. The one city to the south is almost gone.
Yeah.
They'll be gone next turn, I'm sure.
Yeah, Carl's doing pretty well.
I lost his GDR in the shuffle, though. I don't know where it is.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
He was hiding inside the Hagia Sophia there.
That's fair. Oh. What's he doing?
So because we don't have the particle cannon upgrade yet, the ranged attacks are just going to be, like, they're not bombard attacks yet, right? So like it's not going to be as effective against the city, kind of like Brian was saying. But they're still going to really...
They are more effective, they are more effective than it would be with a normal ranged attack. They don't get the debuff that most ranged units get from attacking a city. But the particle cannon basically it adds 30 to your attack strength.
Which is huge,
Yes.
All right, we got one.
There's one. It would flip to a free city, but if we conquer the rest fast enough, it might not be a problem.
I think Carl's got this.
I think so.
I was watching him testing this save earlier, and he was just rolling over them. Good lord.
Yeah, those battleship armadas are doing some serious work.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to talk too much about this, but because it has been asked, the future civics tree.
Yeah.
We also have future civics, correct?
We do.
And some new governments. I think we're a little too far away to show them right now. But is there anything interesting there that kind of like plays into things you guys want to mention?
Yeah, I'll tease a little bit about that. So, so the rock band actually comes at Cold War, so it's a little bit in advance of the future era, so you can kind of like use the future era and the information era to go out and actually perform concerts.
Yeah.
But the really cool thing about the future civics era is, there are 3 new governments in a brand new tier. So they'll give you more favor. I believe they give you more envoys. They give you more... They give you more flexible slot types for your government. You can slot different policies and stuff like that. And they have very powerful inherent bonuses. So powerful, in fact, that they also have like slight downsides. So like there's one, for example, where I'll give you like the downside bonus is there's less science in cities without governors. So it's kind of meant more for like a tightly controlled empire where you have a governor in every city. But there are other ones that are much more about like, hey, let's conquer the world and like not care about that sort of thing. So they each kind of like lean towards a little a victory condition slightly, but there's like I think 5 wildcard policy slots for each one. So if you want to, you know, say, okay, well, I want to like add a bunch of slots to go towards domination, it ends up being a lot more flexible. So our hope is that like you know, it'll really help you push towards the victory. Like the Futures technology tree. The placement is slightly random. So there's like, I believe, 6 or 7 future civics. And they will either be in the first column or the second column. And the sort of prerequisites of how they link up is slightly randomized every game. And there are a lot of really powerful policy cards that you unlock in those. So there are powerful wildcard policy slots, wildcard policy cards. That are like specifically to help you win a victory or to counter someone else trying to win a victory. So to help you win a domination victory or to prevent someone else from winning a domination victory. Same for science, same for culture, same for diplomacy.
They're good end game cards.
Yeah.
Good end game cards. And because they're wild card cards, you know, you really have to have one of those late game governments in order to take advantage of the most of them.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So it looks like he has 1 city left to grab.
That's quick. I was just talking about the Digital Civics, and here we go. The siege, the last city.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so we set out to conquer Poland on this stream, and I think
there it is.
We did
it! Actually did.
Sorry, Jackie.
Oh.
She's so sad.
I know.
Okay, I hope this makes up for the Hungary stream where we didn't get to canals.
Showed you all sorts of canals.
Yeah.
Giant death robots.
That's what we were going to call the expansion at one time, right? Just canals.
Yeah. Right. Civilization 6.
Canals.